just read that from a rhetorical treatise and then be able to memorize. You have to practice, and you do that by practicing, by learning whole speeches by famous masters.
Which seems to be what Socrates was up to with his school, picking out certain canonical texts, which included Thucydides, of course, getting them to learn them. It's a very murky subject, memory, I think. Yeah.
The younger Pliny, in one of his letters, mentions a rhetor who was able to listen to a complete speech and then recite it back word for word.
Do you believe that?
I do. Yes.
Yeah.
But exactly how?
If it were the day corona.
I mean, I think that we ourselves live in a culture in which we don't use our memories.
But there is that issue. As I mentioned, Jocelyn Penny Small wrote that you need to read her chapter in the rhetoric volume, but she thinks that the more writing there was, it didn't change the way that you would imagine it did. And all these different stories about
we're probably getting back to Homer again.
And about Homer and reciting all the. But it's not the same thing as a speech. It really isn't.
Yes, it's much easier if it's verse. Learning Homeric hexameters and reciting those must have been considerably easier than learning a speech. And even if the speech does have a rhythm to it, it's not the same as verse. It doesn't. Verse propels you along because you know what the rhythm is, and it sort of takes you along, and it has. Okay, there's some variation allowed in every line, but essentially the lines have a very similar structure. Whereas in prose, even if it is rhythmical, even if it's as rhythmical as Cicero, you don't know what clausula he's going to use next. I suppose you can perhaps hear if something's wrong, but I'm not sure it really would help you very much in the memory, and probably with Artichoris considerably less, as they're much less obviously rhythmical. But actually,
one of the choruses in Aristophanes' Birds. I learnt that when I was about 14, because we had to do a reading competition, and we also had to do Latin. Beatus ille qui procul negoti sub prisca gens mortalium paterna rora bolus et suis salutus omni finere. And you can remember it, this is 40.
But actually this brings me on to something else I wanted to ask about, and that is that you said you'd actually been doing your own scanning of different Attic orators. You'd chosen particular passages and you'd gone through, and I think this is something very interesting, because this is a very original and fresh thing to do. Gregory Hutchinson has been doing this for Appian, and he's announced that Appian is all completely rhythmical all the way through, and nobody had ever noticed this, and he's extending this further into other Greek historians, and he has done that not by publishing tables of statistics, but simply by reading, sensitive reading and observation, and just writing down his really impressions. Now you've told us this evening that you've done something rather similar with, and it seemed to me you had looked at quite a lot of speeches and passages, and I just wondered if you told us that you didn't find that paeans were very obvious there, but I wonder what you did find, and if you'd share with us just anything that you noticed while doing that and can pass on.
Well, I think at the level that Gregory Hutchinson incidentally was in the Greek chorus with me when we won that. He was much better at it than I was, so you should ask him still. But to me, it's not easy to detect any actual rhythms. But I thought an obvious one to me was the first words of antiphon 5 are ebulon men. O and dress. But then it may be that the first opening and possibly the ending is deliberate. Like Tacitus' Annals starts with a hexameter, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I seem to remember. But
you think you're going to get a poem,
as soon
yeah.
as you, and of course Aristotle says you mustn't, and that must be right, but as soon as you delve into the middle of section 3 or something, it's just a series of longs and whether you wish to see patterns, because there's the additional problem of how you would scan prose with the clashing vowels, like the one I showed you, that technically you should align that, so it isn't a P in anyway.
Yeah.
In Lysias. And of course there have been studies done of the use of hiatus in speaking, because when you have hiatus it stops you, and it gives you pause for breath, this sort of thing. So again, I'm not really answering your question, but I haven't detected anything. But I thought I would look at the Elatea narrative in Demosthenes 18 is one of the most famous, and I thought that's where you're going to find it.
One would expect,
Yes.
yeah.
But maybe my lack of skill, but I didn't particularly find it. Douglas was.
Yeah, just on that point, on number 22, where you've got Dionysius scanning on the crown. I mean, obviously, you have the kind of problem there of where do you draw the line between these metrical units. But if you look at it, it does in fact bear out what Aristotle was saying about the iambic rhythm of ordinary speech, because there's hardly any double short elements there. If you look at that as a continuous sequence of syllables, there's lots of long, single short, there's lots of critics, even the paean is a resolved critic. So you've got, you know, with the exception of the cream, which you can think of as a resolved critic, you've got mainly single short meter. And of course Aristotle would have thought of trochees and iambs as both iambic.
Yes.
That's what he means
Yes.
by iambic.
Yes.
So he's thinking of critic-based meter anyway.
Yes.
And that passage, as scanned by Dionysius, does seem to bear him out.
Well, I'm very happy to stand corrected by someone who knows much more about it than I do. To me, there's a lot of spondaic rhythms that I saw to answer your
If you thought of it
question.
as epitrite, you would think of the spondees as linked syllables. So there you've got Bacchaeus spondee, so you've got anceps, critic anceps, or prolonging into the antipiece, which actually does give you a double short there. And then you've got your spondee, and then the run of critics. Spondee, Bacchaeus, gives you a linked syllable, another critic, another linked syllable, and so on. So it's very, very heavily critic, it's very heavily single short. So maybe that's what Aristotle means, is that you tend not to have runs of short syllables.
Yeah. Perhaps I need to start again. But it really isn't easy, at least for an Englishman. He would have felt it much more readily, I think, than I could. Because if you think back, it goes long, short, long, short, long. So you start thinking, where do I put the dividers, don't you?
Well, I mean, I kind of think that we should stick with Palmas. I think of Greek verses composed of critics and anathemes.
Yeah.
Chorions.
Yeah. I'll try again. Thank you.
If you look at Ciceronian prose rhythm, which of course has been studied a lot, if one just wants to say in one sentence what the essence of Ciceronian prose rhythm is, I think it is just avoidance of anything that sounds like hexameter verse. So if you have short syllables, you tend to have one or three, but not two. and there's some common ground, I think, between that system and what we see here, in that molossus is a common in Cicero, critics are common in Cicero. These two in Cicero would be regarded as resolved critics, which is completely allowed in the Ciceronian scheme.
So there is a book that scans it's tended to be done with the ends of clauses, like with Cicero. And there's a book on Isaiah that does this and tries to date the speeches accordingly to the rhythm, because the rhythms do change. I tend to like the book because it fits in with the dates that I wish to assign to the speeches. But it's a very complex topic. But it's obvious to do the ends of clausulae, but do you do all the rest of it? Would there have been? It can't be.
You're on safe ground at the end of clauses, at the end of all clauses, really. But once you get further back, it becomes a bit more speculative and imaginative, and things things sometimes fit and sometimes don't. But you never find it's just totally the whole thing scans. Things scan before a pause, even a short pause.
Yeah. To some extent, it all scans. It must do, mustn't it? By definition.
Would anybody like to ask a final question?
One that I can possibly answer.
If anybody's got anything they're bursting to ask, but it rather looks as if people don't. In which case, I think we will draw formal proceedings to a halt at this point. We do have refreshments upstairs, provided courtesy of the Network for Oratory and Politics. So I hope to see as many of you as possible upstairs in a minute or so. But first, let me thank Professor Edwards on behalf of us all for a paper which I think really covered the whole of rhetoric. You brought everything in, and you covered many orators, Greek and Roman. So this has been a very wide-ranging paper in which you've picked out really thought-provoking points for us to take away and ponder. So I've enjoyed it very much, and I'm sure we all have, and thank you very much for coming to talk to us this evening.